This is Sports 845 with Darin, Kunis, and Dick O'Neill.
Welcome to Sports 845, December 13th, 2023. To my right, not nearly as good looking. That was the rule. Dick said you can get anybody to replace me. Just can't be as good looking as I am. To my right, the great Jimmy Emory. Jimmy and I met years ago coaching travel ball, baseball.
A little bit of football, sure.
And Jimmy is, we look like a before and after commercial for the gym. I'm the before, you're after.
Yeah.
But Jimmy was kind enough on short notice to fill in for Coach O'Neill. And Jimmy, the winter meeting, first of all, thank you.
Oh, no worries. Some big shoes to fill.
They are big. The winter meetings just took place. I want to do baseball and get baseball out of the way.
Sure.
Shohei Ohtani goes to the Dodgers, and to me, there's a few issues with this. Forget what they're paying him. I could care less.
Right. But
the fact that they're giving him $700 million and only $2 million counts against the cap is a problem for baseball.
No question.
Because the Dodgers have to pay no luxury tax, and they can do whatever they want and sign other people. And it's going to set a precedent that's already wrong. And before you answer, there's already a problem in all major sports. Because, Jimmy, if I offer you $100 million to play for the Knicks and the Miami Heat or the Dallas Mavericks offer you $80 million, you're making more there because of the state income tax.
No question.
So that's a problem in sports. But this Ohtani deal, really, it's like throwing it in MLB's face.
Absolutely. I think you have to look at, a couple things. Number one, there are 5 or 6 states out there that you are going to lose a whole heck of a lot more money than you would, playing somewhere else, number one. Number two, I think Major League Baseball and the Players Association would have absolutely had a problem with that contract had it not been not incentive-lated, but back-ended, right?
Deferred.
So
yep.
those deferred monies don't count at all towards anything.
No.
So in essence,
I think the players love this.
I think the players love it too, but don't you think for 1 second that baseball wouldn't step in understanding that it's bad for the sport? Had there been language in the contract saying that it could count towards the luxury tax?
I think you will see something like that.
I think it has to be going forward, right? Because otherwise, what's to stop any one of these people that, well, you look at Shohei Ohtani as we're talking about him. The Giants, their offer was virtually the same as what the Dodgers offered him. However, it was a little more front heavy and not as much back heavy. So who won out?
Yeah.
Right.
And to me, no baseball player is worth $700 million. I guess the logic is if we're going to pay a power hitter $35 million and a pitcher $35 million, we got both for him for $70.
Right.
Ohtani is great. He's great, but he was also on the team with probably someone who's equally as great, and they won nothing. Ohtani has no playoff wins.
Correct.
Trout, no playoff wins. So he goes to the Dodgers. I think he always wanted to stay on the West Coast. He goes to the Dodgers where he's guaranteed 100 wins. And he's going to be in the playoffs.
Absolutely.
And I think that's simply why he chose the Dodgers.
I think so, too. I think, too, you have to look at the revenues that he makes off the field.
It's incredible.
$50 million off the field enables him, to do that. So you're not going to have, regardless of what your talent is, regardless of, your talent base, you're not going to have, he's a once-in-a-lifetime player.
Mm-hmm.
He's doing 2 things, right?
And
so
very well at both of them.
He is. But so break it down. So what did they pay Judge? If you look at Judge's numbers and Ohtani's numbers from a purely hitting standpoint over the past 4 or 5 years, they're virtually the same.
Mm-hmm.
They're virtually the same. I mean, Shohei might be a little ahead in a couple of categories, but Judge is ahead in a couple as well.
Well, there's one major thing that Ohtani's ahead in.
Stolen bases.
No. Ohtani plays. Judge doesn't play.
Very good point. Very good point.
Judge misses 30 to 40 games a year.
Yet still his numbers are comparable.
Yes.
Right? So if you look at Judge and you say $360 million, right? That's what we're going to pay a premier power hitter in today's game. So I think the starting point when you look at Ohtani is 360. Mm-hmm. And then you look at, okay, so what do we pay a guy for 20 wins? What's that worth? Right?
Yeah.
Is it an
agree.
additional 360? I don't think so. But, listen, hey, good for him.
Yeah.
Good for him.
It's good. Listen, I'm sure you talked about the Players Association. They're clapping their hands.
No question.
Juan Soto goes to the Yankees in a trade. You're a Yankee fan.
Yes, sir.
Juan Soto had his press conference yesterday, and when asked if he planned on resigning, he didn't give you he wasn't all shits and giggles, I can't wait to stay here.
It was almost like it was on repeat. He said, you know who to talk to and where to find them.
So
pretty much.
If the Yankees lose in the bottom of the ninth in Game 7 against the Dodgers in the World Series and Soto leaves, was this a bad trade?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think
Have to win a
only-
World Series.
Have to. 28 or bust, right? So if you look at the pitching that the Yankees gave up to get Soto, while they didn't give up their biggest, most coveted prospects, right?
Mhm.
They were smart, essentially, in keeping those arms. They did give away some talent. They gave away a couple of pitchers that had some incredible numbers in AAA, and they gave away some talent that had proved themselves at the major league level, right? Juan Soto in pinstripes, left-handed at Yankee Stadium, he is going to have a breakout year. This is a contract year for him. He's going to want to be playing his best, right?
Which he always has.
He has. What did he turn down with the Nationals?
$440 million.
So if you're the Yankees and if you're Hal Steinbrenner, whom I'm told was at that meeting, you better back the Brinks truck up. If and when you win that World Series, you better back it up and pay the man because it's coming.
It didn't help that they gave Judge $360 last year, and it certainly didn't help that Ohtani got $700 million this year.
No, sir. If
But-
you're Scott Boras, you're licking your lips because
Yeah.
look across the board with him. Very rarely, I mean, he has had a couple of clients that have chose to take a little bit less money and stay home for the creature comforts of home. But more often than not, I think a Boras client, goes where the money is.
Takes the biggest bag.
Yes, sir.
Now, I want to go back to Ohtani for one quick second. And this is where I just don't get it. You and I follow baseball.
Yes, sir.
We certainly don't own a baseball team.
Nope.
If you polled you, I, and 18,000 fans, what team is Ohtani going to play on next year in the middle of last season? The Angels weren't even mentioned.
No.
There was no chance he was re-signing there.
I don't know that they could from not necessarily a financial standpoint, but I think that they understood that they were not even to remain competitive in that division. They were not going to be able to spend the amount of money that they knew, and I think the public as a whole knew was going to take to sign this young man.
Artie Moreno owns the Angels.
Yes, he does.
What Artie Moreno did, in my opinion, is complete malpractice of an owner. And I'll tell you why. You got the biggest star in the game, the guy that 30 teams want, and let's give him a 5% chance that he's resigning. The Angels are out of it. They weren't making the playoffs. How do they not trade Ohtani? How do you not lose? Now I know you're not going to get a ton because he's at that point a 2-month rental,
right?
But you get something. There's no way that if they went to the Yankees, when the Yankees were struggling and said, we'll trade you Ohtani for, the Yankees would have given him something. The Angels walked away with this with nothing.
Right. Knowing that they weren't going to sign him next year, especially when Trout went down, right?
Yeah.
So the argument could be made, with a healthy Trout and a healthy Ohtani, we could backdoor our way into this season, right? Into these playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
But when you knew that wasn't going to happen,
which happened before the trade deadline.
Sure. How do you not then maximize your value, your bang for your buck, and say, you know what? Whoever's going to give me the largest haul in return, take him, because he's not coming back here next year.
All they got was a draft pick.
Yeah.
When they could have got a lot.
Sure.
Not nearly as much as what people are thinking, but they could have gotten a lot. It reminds me of when Jose Reyes won a batting title with the Mets, and every Met fan knew he was leaving, and they didn't trade him.
Right.
The Yankees, what else do you want to see the Yankees do? They got Soto in tow.
Okay.
Their outfield, I thought the Verdugo trade was a very under the radar, great move by the Yankees.
So according to Cashman and some of the published reports out there, Jeff Bassan and a couple other people are saying that they've actually coveted the young man for a couple of years now. I think the only troubling part for me is...
You're talking about Verdugo?
Verdugo, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The only troubling part for me is there are some
Rumors.
reports out there, rumors.
Clubhouse cancer.
Yep. Yeah, that he's not necessarily a team guy, not
Mm-hmm.
someone who's, rah-rah, going to toe the line. But I think that, in the absence of leadership, right? In the absence of true leadership. Now, if you look at that Red Sox team, and Betts is gone, and Xander Bogaerts. There's a few names there, but there's no more
Veritek, probably the biggest one.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly. There's no more Jason Ver. There's no more legitimate leaders, guys that solidify that clubhouse, right?
Rafael Devers, maybe.
Maybe, but he's young too,
Mm-hmm.
right? So is it fair to ask him to step up and to be that, that authority figure. So in that clubhouse, but I'm thinking that with an authority figure, with someone like a Judge, that kid might be.
First of all, Boston's a great city, but it's mini compared to New York. He will get called out immediately, and he will be praised immediately.
Mm-hmm.
But you now go into the season with an outfield of Verdugo, Judge, and Soto. You still have Garrett Cole. What else? What are you looking? What would make Jimmy Emory say, "Drop the mic. I got what I want now"?
We're talking about pre-Hal Steinbrenner?
You're talking about right now Yankees.
All right,
Who do
so
you want?
I want Hal to take a page out of his dad's book,
Mhm.
and I would love for them to do whatever they can, and it seems as though they might be, to get Yamamoto.
Okay.
I think bring in
They're
someone,
in on him.
They're in, and published reports right now are saying that they're in to the tune of about 9 years, $360 million, which is.
I've heard Yankees and Mets are one of those two teams.
So I think what the Mets have going for them is
They went to
Yamamoto's best
Japan
friend
and Senga.
is on that team. So, however, the Yankees rolled out Hideki Matsui and Tanaka and all those guys, and don't forget Tanaka and Yamamoto are at the same time in their careers. They were both 25-year-old studs coming out of Japan, right, to come over here. So I think that he has some people that he can talk to in this league and make an informed decision. But I think the Yankees solidified their bullpen a little bit with another left-handed signing the other day. So I don't believe Wandy Peralta's coming back. So I kind of think they needed a left-handed arm in that bullpen.
Is Gleyber Torres on the team next year?
He is.
You think so?
He is. And as a matter of fact, I think you're going to see LeMahieu get a whole lot more time at third base.
Mhm.
I think Torres is going to be playing a whole lot of second base. And I think that the Volpe kid is your shortstop.
Yeah.
I think the Volpe kid is your shortstop. And I think, you have Stanton DH. And I'd love to see, you mentioned the outfield, Soto,
Verdugo.
Judge, and Verdugo. That's two left-handed bats at Yankee Stadium.
Mhm.
Two left-handed
And
bats.
the right-handed back can hit it out of Yellowstone.
Indeed. Now, if you get Rizzo to pull his head out of his backside again and start hitting the baseball and add a little bit of protection in the middle of that lineup, it adds length, right? So potentially you have a 260, 270, 280 hitting ninth place hitter who is, oh, by the way, 22 years old and a Gold Glove winner.
Agreed. So, would Blake Snell excite you?
So Blake Snell is to me an anomaly.
I think you need another pitcher.
I do too.
Or two.
If
Well, it
not,
depends on Rodon.
I would love to see what happens with Rodon, and I would love to see a healthy Frankie Montas. Right? What is he going to bring to the table? I mean, what can he bring to the table?
It can't be worse than he's been.
I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility to ask for 14 wins. Maybe pitch to a 2-4, 2-5, 2-6. I don't think it's. I really don't think it's as crazy.
I think
as
that's
people.
the bottle half full.
Okay.
Because what we've seen, Montas doesn't move the needle at all. But there are pitchers out there. If they, once Yamamoto goes, then you'll see some other pitchers. You'll see the Glasnows. You'll see the Snells.
Sonny Gray.
You'll see Sonny Gray.
He just
think
re-signed,
yeah.
right? But think about him too.
And there's no way they're bringing him back.
Right, in that Yankee context, right?
Yeah.
It either works for some people or it doesn't.
Yeah.
And you don't have to look as far back as Joey Gallo.
Yeah.
Right.
Lucas Giolito.
Sure.
These are guys that I'm hoping for, because now we're going to go to the Mets. The Mets, Yamamoto, they're in on Yamamoto, obviously. Blake Snell, Lucas Giolito, guys I like. The Mets got bad news the other day in one of their prize prospects, Mauricio, tore his ACL.
Right, saw that.
To me, it's bad news. But the positive side of that is now maybe the Mets and Uncle Stevie goes out and gets Matt Chapman to play third base, because Chapman's better than Mauricio right now today.
He's a bigger bat. He's a bigger name.
And he's
a
Brooks
better
Robinson
all-around
type
player. Yes, sir.
defensive player.
Absolutely. Puts a bat on the ball, and he's hard nosed. Reminds me of like those old school players, like a George Brett. Right?
Yes.
Not afraid to get dirty. Just down the guys that you need 5 of to carry the majority of the workload. But absolutely, Matt Chapman.
Yeah. So we'll see what happens more. But baseball, there's really not much to talk about. I wouldn't even talk about it if it wasn't for Ohtani signing and the Yankees and Mets being involved in Yamamoto.
I think you're going to see some chips fall, like you said, here in the next day or two. Once Yamamoto goes, I think that'll kind of set the market for what Snell wants to get paid, and a couple of.
And then you have the trade market.
Absolutely.
You also have guys like Cody Bellinger out there and other people. But we'll talk about that in the weeks to come. When we get back, we're gonna dive into college football. There's been a lot of controversy about that. You and I argued on Facebook. We'll talk about that. This portion of the show is brought to you by the best girl in the world, Artist Alley. Artist Alley is in Suite 12B. Is it Rich? Is it 12B? I say it every week. I don't know.
I have it written down.
It's in Elite Studios. It's in Westchester, Pennsylvania. It's really only a 20-minute drive from here. And she's wonderful. She's very busy during the holidays, but if you need, we have a way to get you in to get a haircut. That's Artist Alley, and we'll talk about her Philadelphia Eagles later. We will be right back. We are back December 13th, 2023. We didn't do a show last week, and I wanted to do it on purpose this week because I wanted to really look into certain things about how the committee came up with the Final Four in college football, which takes over the next 2 weeks, 3 weeks. And it used to be great. It used to be. College football is still, it's still something you want to watch. It's great. But the problem with college football right now and college athletics, before we get to the teams, is there's 3,000 kids in the transfer portal right now. That was as of this morning.
Right.
Marvin Harrison, who is going to be one of the top 5 picks, the best wide receiver in college, is probably going to come back to Ohio State. And just imagine saying this years ago.
Right.
He's coming back to Ohio State as an amateur athlete, a student athlete, because he can make more money in college than he can in his first NFL contract. Reports are $18 million he can get if he returns to Ohio State. Before you go, out of all these kids in the transfer portal, not all of them, but a lot of them, they're basically free agents signing with a college, nothing to do with a degree, to get the most amount of money. Tyler Van Dyke just left Miami for Wisconsin. He's getting $2.4 million. He may never take a snap in the NFL. You know, in 5 years, we could be talking about a 10th year senior. That's where it is.
Sure, with the eligibility and no punishment if you do transfer, right? Gone are the days when you lose a year. You want to transfer, Darin? No problem, buddy. You can transfer to the school of your choosing, but you're going to lose a year of eligibility.
And
right?
my thought.
Now we're telling you, go get in where you can fit in, right?
Yeah.
If you go play for a Notre Dame who has a national television contract, and they can tell you that we're reasonably certain we can get you $6 to $8 million in NIL money if you come back to play school, you're coming back to play school ball.
Yeah, because an NFL rookie contract it's a lot of money, but it's not nearly this.
So if you go in the first round, right, and we all know that Harrison Jr. is arguably a top 5 pick.
Yeah,
right.
I don't even think it's arguable.
Yeah, you're right. But outside of the 2 quarterbacks, and maybe even he may be even 2. It may go.
It depends.
Quarterback, Harrison Jr. quarterback.
Yeah. I mean, if the Carolina has the number 1 pick, I don't think they're taking a quarterback. They could take Marvin Harrison at 1.
It's a very good point. Very good point. But it depends too. If I think what you're going to see is the Bears are going to want to try and finagle and work up as well too.
Yeah, I'm saying with that trade. Yeah.
But so these guys. So you're telling Harrison Jr. that you can. So say he does go to 1, 2, 3. So his rookie contract in the NFL, he's guaranteed between $18 and $20 million, right? He can sign for more, but that's your typical, your first round monies. Mm-hmm. You're telling him go be a rookie and learn this whole brand new system in the NFL for X amount of money, or come back here
and play for a crap team.
Play for right, true, right? Because you're going in the first couple of picks, or come back here where you're king of the hill, right? You are the number 1 man on campus. Mm-hmm. We roll the red carpet out for you. Oh, and by the way, we're going to pay you as much, if not more, than you were going to make your rookie year in the NFL. Mm-hmm. And then next year you can go to the NFL and make that money. Mm-hmm. That's a no-brainer. Yeah. That's a no-brainer.
And he certainly doesn't come from a poor family either.
No, sir. No,
now,
sir.
It used to be, and my feeling always was with transfer, if I go to your house and recruit your son, the only way you should be, and you commit to my school, and no NIL money, this is years ago, you commit to my school, the only way you could transfer is if I leave. I think if the coach left, you have the right to transfer and not sit out a season.
Sure, because the decision to go to a school
is based on the coach.
Has to be.
A big part of it.
Sure, and the parents have to have a warm fuzzy as to who they're sending their child off to be with for the next 4 years, right? And think about it. You look at guys like Dabo Swinney, right? he is more of a human being builder, a man builder, and someone that teaches responsibility and character than he is a football coach. And I know that sounds crazy to say, but people go to play for him because of his morals and his values. You trust a man like that with your kid. So he recruits your kid's all ready to go, and he goes down to Clemson, and then Dabo says, hey, see you later.
Yeah.
You should be able to leave. I agree with you 100%.
You know, you just brought up something, and I am a big Miami Hurricane fan. And I'm going to try to say this in a way it's what I mean, but I don't want it's going to be taken the wrong way.
Okay.
Cam Ward is in the transfer portal. He makes an official visit from Washington State to the University of Miami. Miami gets penalized more than any other team for stupidity. Do you know who was part of the official visit to Miami for Cam Ward?
I do not.
Rick Ross. Why are they sending? It used to be Luther Campbell. Stop with the gangster mentality and go out and get good kids.
So that goes back, right? So that goes back.
You know what
to,
I'm saying?
If you
Get
look
good, responsible kids, and you'll have a better football team.
What's the greatest collegiate football team? Now, from a perspective of who then went on to play NFL ball, what do you think is the greatest college football team that ever existed? To me, two teams come to mind, and one is head and shoulders above the other.
The 89, and I'm guessing at the year, the 89 Hurricanes,
100%.
and maybe 4 years ago, Alabama.
100% right.
Because Miami, on the one, I don't know if it's 89, but their running backs were Portis,
Frank Gore.
McGahee, Gore,
Yeah.
and Edrin James.
Yep. And then the defensive backs, the linebackers, the D-line from
Sean
Vince
Taylor.
Wilfork to Sean Taylor.
Ed Reed,
If you go back and look at that team,
Devin
Right.
Hester.
they were legitimized and people fantasized about being who they were, but their lifestyle was one of, it wasn't on the up and up, right?
No.
It was all that whole gangster mentality. It
Yeah.
was, this is what we're
So
gonna
why
pay
do we
you.
have Rick Ross
This is
greeting
the
them?
lifestyle that we're going to promise you. I think it's flashy for kids, unfortunately, right?
Yeah, but it's not, because it hasn't been successful. You watch a Miami team play, and you watch, they get off the field, their defense is unbelievable, and they're hovering over someone, taunting them, and it's just a 15-yard penalty.
Right.
Get better kids.
Yeah.
That's my point.
So character, right? It goes down to character. If your livelihood is you're getting paid to coach major D1 college football, and I don't care if it's the SEC, the ACC, the soon-to-be defunct Pac-12, it matters not. You're in a Power 5 conference, and you're the Division I head football coach. Your livelihood is based on your wins and your losses. It's how you run that program,
Yeah.
right?
Well, when you brought up Dabo Sweeney, and I agree with you, that's why I went the other direction.
So it's tough, right? It's tough seeing him in the position that he's in now, because once Lawrence left and ATN and all those guys, he's having a rough go this year. He's winning some ball games, but he's having kind of a rough go. But what he's never done, Darin, is he hasn't wavered from the type of kid that he recruits. Right, so it's a character first, and the reason why I bring that up is because I feel as though he's going to get passed by here in the next couple of years, because I don't know that the rest of college football has the character or
the cojones to say,
values to stick to what it is they believe in, right? Because the second that you're charged with, hey, win or go home, you're going to lose your job. You better stand on your faith, and you better stand on your morals, and you better stand on your values. Otherwise, you're done. And I think that right now he is one of the only ones that has proven time and time and time again that he's willing to do so. And people trust sending their kids there. Now, that's not to say that, other coaches aren't phenomenal human beings. But I got to be honest, if you were to tell me, hey, listen, Jimmy, you can draft whatever team you want. You're going to get five kids that are probably a headache, but they're the best athletes in the world. My cockiness is going to say, I can handle them. You know what I mean? I can rein them in. Let me have them. I don't know that he would do that.
Now, you said there were two teams. I named them both.
You hammered them both. Well,
Wait,
let's
which
go back.
one was
Najee Harris?
Which one was above and beyond? Because I'll
The
argue.
Hurricanes.
Okay,
Because
thank you.
gotta give them that
I
edge.
agree.
You got to give them that. You got to give them that edge. Those are the guys. So
I agree.
the way I look at it is, if they played each other on the field, I think just the anger and the tenacity with which, specifically their defense, Miami's defense, played, I think they run over.
Yeah, I mean, Jerome Brown, there's a lot of guys.
Yeah.
I'm agreeing. Okay, we agree.
No question.
We agree. When we get back, I want to dive into the Final Four and some other bowl games. This portion of the show brought to you by Village Pizza, located on Greenwich Avenue in Goshen. A million places sell pizza in Goshen. There's only one place you want to go, and that's Village Pizza. John Paul, his family, they're the salt of the earth, great people. And phenomenal, phenomenal pizza. We will be back right after this. Sports 845. I am Darin Kunis, and to my right, filling in for the legendary Dick O'Neill, Jimmy Emory. Jimmy, here's your Final Four. Okay, Michigan plays Alabama. Washington plays Texas. The big argument is Florida State. Here's where the committee. There's many reasons why the committee screwed up, but let me give you one big one. Florida State, with 2 games to go, lost their quarterback. They went into Florida, the Swamp, a rivalry game. I don't care what Florida's ranked. It's Florida State, Florida, in the Swamp. Doesn't matter where they're ranked in Gainesville.
Or Gainesville. Yeah.
And a backup quarterback went into the Swamp and won. And the committee raised Florida State after that victory from 6 to 4. So they let the world know, the college football world know, we're giving you credit for that victory. That was a good win. Then they lose the backup quarterback and they go play Louisville for the ACC title, a team that averages 33 points a game, and the Florida State defense held them to 2 field goals. And the committee 2 weeks ago rewarded them for such a victory, dropped them for the same type of victory.
Right.
Florida State, and I'm going to take Florida State and I'm going to compare them to Michigan.
Okay.
Florida State has wins this year over LSU when they were number 5 in the country. They have wins over Clemson, Duke, the rivalry game with Florida, the bigger rivalry game with the Canes, and Louisville.
Ranked Louisville.
Yeah. Michigan has wins over, they beat Penn State, and they won a game at Ohio State. They won a home game against Ohio State in a game that Ohio State could have won at the last minute.
No question.
And then they defeated Iowa in the conference championship. Another problem for Michigan is twofold. Their coach, you're a Yankee fan.
Right.
Should the Astros have won a World Series?
No.
Okay, so the Michigan Wolverines and Jim Harbaugh basically did the same thing the Astros did.
Not once. Twice suspended this year.
Right. I was going to get to that. But they weren't accused of cheating. Right. They were convicted of cheating. There were 12 games. Their head coach was suspended for 50% of them. 3 at the beginning, 3 at the end. They have really 2 good wins. And the other problem is the Big Ten is all screwed up. Michigan, Ohio State, Penn State in one conference, and the rest of the crap in the other. So your Big Ten championship game is always Ohio State versus Northwestern, Michigan versus Iowa. It's never Michigan, Ohio State. It's never Michigan, Penn State. Right. And what Penn State has become is basically a resume builder. They're good, but they're not great.
Exactly.
So I can't, if I'm going to give Florida State credit for their win at Duke, I have to give Michigan credit for their win against Penn State.
Agreed.
But they have 2.5 good wins. They were cheating. Yes, they're good. We're not debating whether or not they're good. We're just saying, how do you take Michigan over Florida State? And you made a point before the show. There's 4 spots and there's a Power 5. So one of the Power 5s is going to get screwed.
If they all win out,
yeah,
one of them is losing out, right? Mm-hmm. Make no mistake. Last year, they were offered this 12 playoff team system that is supposed to be happening next year, or will be happening next year. In their infinite wisdom, and it was led, by the way, by the ACC, they said, we want 365 days to mull this over. We want to think about this, right? We want to think about it. Where did that get them? What you've just done with college football, if, let's say for argument's sake, let's argue the point that there's not going to be a 12-game playoff next year. It was the same system. You have told every single 3, 4, and 5-star recruit in the nation, you can go to an ACC school,
go undefeated,
win out, do everything that you're supposed to do, and potentially not have the opportunity to play for a national championship. You have just hamstrung every other conference that doesn't have the letters S, E, and C in it. Right? You legitimately have. And, oh, by the way, Florida State has been arguing to get out of the ACC for the better part of a decade. I think this is going to force them out. That's point number 1. Point number 2, there is no arguing on paper what you just talked about, right? But if you were to ask any book right now,
I agree with you. I know where you're going.
Right?
The 4 best teams in the country,
Right.
in my mind, the 4 best are Michigan, who I just ripped.
Yep.
Alabama.
Yep.
Georgia.
Yep.
And Washington.
Agreed.
Those are your 4 best.
Agreed.
The 4 most deserving
Yes.
are. You see, here's where the committee also there was a perfect storm because you cannot take Alabama and not take Texas.
Right.
Because Texas beat Alabama.
But Texas beat Alabama. Texas beat an Alabama team in its infancy. Week
Yeah.
number 3?
No, it was
week 1.
basically week 1 is week 0, so it was really week 1.
So you have to give that win some credibility.
But Texas ran the table. No, they lost to Oklahoma.
Sure.
But Texas played a tougher schedule, or you
They
could
did.
argue the same schedule.
But you look at Michigan too. Michigan didn't have a tough schedule.
No, I just brought that up.
So across the board, the committee had a very tough decision this year, and you knew it was going to happen. I mean, just like
The
kind of
committee
looking-
needed Georgia to beat Alabama, and then there's no issue. You have 4 undefeated teams.
None. You're telling me a team right in Georgia who had won up until 2 weeks ago versus Alabama had won 29 straight. Oh, and by the way, 2 back-to-back national championships, and they're not in the playoff picture.
And you were going to say something, and I agree with you. If Georgia played Michigan, Washington, Texas, they'd be 7-point favorites in every game. Minimum.
Now look at what the book is saying about Florida State, because there are people out there that are arguing that. They're saying with the absence of Jordan Travers and Florida State with that coveted defense, you put them up against any of the 4 teams that are in now. You put them up against Ohio State, and Georgia, right, who are not in there, and they're 14-point dogs.
Well, they're 14, but I think we both agree. If Florida State was in the Final Four, maybe we don't both agree. Let's say it was Michigan, Alabama, Washington, and Florida State. I think Florida State gets destroyed.
I agree. And I think the only team that you just mentioned there that would have that Florida State would have a shot against
Washington.
Is Washington.
Because
of the two
Washington
styles.
doesn't play defense and Florida State does.
Exactly. And I think the Penix kid can be rattled. Florida State has a defense that absolutely gets after the quarterback. If you don't know how to stand in that pocket and go to your check down, you're in for a tough day. It's just a tough day. And Florida State has the defense to get after that kid. I think the Penix kid would be flustered in that game. But again, it's an opinion. But I think that, when you look at the committee as a whole, right, they've not necessarily backpedaled, but they started a little bit, because initially it was, who are the 4 most deserving, right?
Four most deserving. Florida State's deserving because how do you tell a coach this? You're not in. You showed incredible depth by winning with a 3rd string quarterback. Your defense held a team that averages 33 points a game to 6. You won with a 3rd string quarterback, and you ran the table, winning every game with LSU, Clemson, Duke, Miami, Florida, Louisville.
And you're not in.
And you didn't cheat.
Right.
You're not in.
Yeah. No. So,
and as a reward, you're going to go get smacked by Georgia.
You're going to get punched in the mouth because Georgia's pissed off.
Yeah.
Right?
But I don't know if that's also the case, because we'll talk about that in a second, because a lot of these kids now don't play.
Well, let's see who's going to play and who's not going to play. But I think it's worth noting, too, two quick points. I think it's worth noting that, so Alabama did beat Georgia, right? They did beat Georgia. But you didn't have – listen, Ladd McConkey was hobbling in and out on every 3rd play. The Bowers kid was hobbling in and out on everything. So you didn't – so if you're going to argue that, Texas beat Alabama in week 1, well, then you got to give it some credence or lend some credibility to the fact that Georgia played Alabama unwhole, right? They weren't whole. So you put them 2 in a room again and you have them go at it. Who wins that game?
2 best teams in the country, Georgia and Alabama.
No question. It was a 3-point game, and Georgia wasn't whole, and they're out, right? Yeah. So if you're Georgia, you're angry. If you're Florida State, you are devastated.
And if you're Ohio State, you're pissed off too, because the only reason Ohio State's not in this conversation is because they didn't play that week.
Yeah, right. Exactly. I don't think Michigan stands a chance. I think Alabama smacks Michigan. I think they punch them right in the eyeball.
We're going to do the picks in a minute. But the other thing, you brought up a 12-team playoff, which I'm in agreement with. We'll still sit here and argue who should be the 12th team and who got screwed. But here's the problem with the 12-team playoff. The greatest week in college football is week 11 and 12, the greatest 2 weeks. You have Michigan, Ohio State, Alabama, the Iron Bowl, North Carolina
Texas,
State,
Oklahoma.
Texas. Well, no, they play earlier in the year.
Earlier.
But you have rivalry weekend. Washington State. Those games would be meaningless this year.
Sure.
And that's a problem.
So how do you fix that with a 12-team playoff? How do you fix that? I think it's
I don't know. There's no perfect system.
well, here's an idea. Instead of bringing Appalachian State, who, by the way, has actually won a couple of big games, one in the Big House in recent memory, but instead of paying these teams millions and millions of dollars to come in and play, play somebody worthwhile. The worst, you said arguably the best week of college football is week 10, 11, 12. The worst is week 2.
Mm-hmm.
There is not a game on in week 2
every
of college
line is
football
52.
that you say, oh my God, good Lord, you might as well.
But they have to do that because the Appalachian states can't survive without it.
Sure, it adds a little bit of parity, and then if you're going to hamstring, these conferences for being in the ACC and running out or winning out, then I guess you have to get these kids, throw them a bone.
But okay, so let me go over some other bowl games before we get to the Final Four. And it's hard as hell to predict these games because
who's playing?
Caleb Williams is out. He's not playing. Drake May is not playing, and I don't blame them.
No.
But the hottest team in the country is Arizona. And they go to Oklahoma. They play Oklahoma in a bowl game. That's a game I want to watch.
Right.
I'm interested in. These are the games I'm interested in. If I'm missing one, point it out. Oregon State, Notre Dame, I'm interested in. Missouri, Ohio State, I'm interested in. And just to show you how little Ohio State cares, Ohio State's getting points against Missouri. Ole Miss, Penn State. Georgia, Florida State, we discussed. I want to see Liberty, Oregon. Because Liberty's another team that's undefeated that has no chance of getting into the Final Four. Iowa, Tennessee. Listen, Iowa plays a great defense. It's it's torture watching them play.
Iowa's claim to fame right now. If you were to live in and around that area and get a program, their punter is featured on the front page of their program, and he is the face of that program because he's the only one that scores.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's painful to watch. And
any other games that I missed?
No, I mean, listen, there's some good ones out there, but a bunch of these intrigue me as well. Mm-hmm. I want to see the Oregon State Notre Dame game. I watched Oregon State play the other night.
Oregon State plays defense.
Physical.
But again, their quarterback, the Clemson quarterback, DJ, is in the portal. He's not playing.
Right. Yep.
The Ohio State quarterback, not playing.
He's there was some talks just recently, yesterday and today, talking about maybe even Nebraska. How does that? What's the McCoy kid? McCoy. He leaves Ohio State, and why is he leaving Ohio State to go to Nebraska?
Oh, McCord, the quarterback. I don't know. And
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So these games, you never know, and they're horrible to bet because you don't know who's playing.
Right.
But those are the games that intrigue me. Now let's get to the Final Four. Michigan, Alabama, Washington, Texas. You already gave it away. You like Alabama in that game.
I do. I like Alabama in that game. And I don't think it's going to be as close as everyone thinks. I think Michigan is going to – they're playing with a little bit of a chip. They were doing it for Coach Harbaugh. And there's actually some speculation as to whether or not he's going to be the Chargers coach next year. I don't think Jim Harbaugh leaves after building the program that he built. But listen, there's some big opportunities out there next year. You have the Chargers with – an established quarterback in Herbert, who's out for the rest of the year. You have, according to reports today, the Patriots, right, who are not bringing Belichick back.
I think Belichick's in San Diego next year. He needs a quarterback. Herbert's a good quarterback.
Cleveland, arguably, is going to be looking for a coach next year, and so is Chicago.
Cleveland, you think?
I think so.
Why? He did a good job.
I just think there was so much nonsense going on with that quarterback room and everything in there.
Okay.
I don't know. You bring a guy like Flacco in, he wins a couple of ball games for you.
What? So we both agree. There's no arguing here. We like Alabama.
I like Alabama. Yep.
Washington, Texas. Texas is a 4-point underdog.
I like
Washington. By the way, is Michigan is the number 1 seed. How thrilled were they to get Alabama?
Yeah. So that was disgusting right there. And Alabama's licking their chops too.
Yeah.
By the way, they were like, "Thank you." I like Texas in this game, not just because they're favored. I think Texas is a little bit more physical. I love the way that Washington runs the ball. But I think Texas has an answer. I think Texas linebacker play, they are stout. They are very, very stout, especially when they get they start to play that 3-4. They are able to do things. They walk those edge guys up, they move them back, they disguise a little bit of coverage. I like Texas in this one.
Really, nothing. You're not a good co-host because I agree with everything you said.
I apologize.
Yeah, I like Alabama to play Texas in a rematch, and I think Alabama wins your national title.
I don't think you're wrong, sir. I don't think you're wrong. I think they're coming in angry. I think that they're in this position because of Texas to begin with. Mm-hmm. And I think that they're out to prove something. I think you understand, we all will understand why Nick Saban is the highest paid collegiate coach out there and is one of the best.
Did you agree with the Heisman Trophy winner?
I did. I thought the kid was he was something. He was fun to watch. So my wife and I, 3 or 4 years now, season ticket holders for Army, and one of my buddies that I was in the Marine Corps with is the trooper that's on the field down at Tiger Stadium in LSU, Louisiana State Trooper. And so he invited us down for the game this year. We didn't make it. We didn't go down, but that Daniels kid, man, I got to watch him a lot on television, and he's something.
He is. Michael Penix reminds me of a bigger Tua. Fair?
So, accuracy-wise, yes, but I think Penix has a stronger arm. Tua doesn't have a cannon.
No.
So Tua is a game manager who
I think he's more than a game manager.
I thought he was exposed, Darin. When Tyreek went out for those couple of series, he looked lost. He's still throwing to a Waddle right there. He still has.
Just remember though, Tennessee scored twice on turnover. Inside their own 5.
Right, but he didn't. I don't know that he has. See, his superpower. Tua, to me, his superpower is he's mobile enough, but he's accurate.
Yeah,
he is accurate. I think the Penix kid has an arm. He zips him.
Yeah,
he zips him. But I don't think he's as.
I am not in love with any of these quarterbacks right now. I'm not.
Right. Well, so gone are the days too. So out of any of those teams, who has a legitimate quarterback that's played in that system for 3 years under the same OC? They haven't. Right, because these kids are all transfers. Is it? Is Texas? He's been there 4 years.
No, he's been there 2 or 3 years, but he's probably leaving because Archie Manning's sitting behind him.
Sure.
And I'll tell you, if he stays, there's going to be your biggest name in the portal, Archie.
Yeah, I don't think you're wrong.
And there's speculation about him going to Ohio State.
Or where his uncle played, right?
Yeah.
Who, by the way, has a game right down here versus Penn State.
Yes. So we both like, Michigan, Alabama versus Texas, and we both like Alabama to win the national title.
Yes, sir.
When we come back, I want to get Dick O'Neill on the phone to give us his college football picks. Dick recovering from knee replacement, and we'll be right back, and we'll have Dick O'Neill on the line. We are back here. Jimmy Emory filling in for the legendary head coach, Dick O'Neill. Dick couldn't make it this week, last week, or the week before. He talked all tough that he was going to be fine. He had knee replacement surgery, and it's been a month since I've seen the guy. But there was I think I know where he got the knee. On the news the other night, there was a giraffe walking, and he only had 2 knee. He only had 1 knee. Right. So I believe that's where the knee came from.
A cadaver knee.
That's about average. I guess. Yeah. And
don't worry, Coach. He only went through about 9 people before he found me to fill in.
Jimmy was my 41st pick.
I got you.
Dick, we were talking about the Final Four. Michigan, Alabama, Washington. First of all, before we get to that, how do you feel?
I feel great. I just got home from my daughter's house maybe an hour or so ago, and I'm sitting here on the chair. That's why I checked in with you. I'm doing great. It's 10 days out. I had my 4th therapy session today, and it went very well. So I'm doing good. I'm walking with a cane. I'm walking with a cane, and I'm doing good. So.
Who's your physical therapist?
Bob Gorman, his name is, over at Orange Lake Physical Therapy.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Give him a quick plug. Dick and I have been doing this show for years. Mm-hmm. It's a great show. Dawn at SUL gets a little upset sometimes because we mention some things and do some things. But I listen to the morning show at SUL, and I think it's sponsored by melatonin. If you want to fall asleep, listen to the morning show there. Dick, Michigan, Alabama, Washington, Texas. Jimmy and I already gave our picks. Let's see if you're on the same page.
Well, you must have said something. I've been on Alabama all year. Every time we've had picked 4 teams or we've had our picks, I've taken Alabama, and they've covered for me all year. So, except for Texas. And I think the Michigan-Texas game is going to be the Michigan Alabama game is going to. I think it's going to be. I think it's going to be a little high scoring than people think. They both have good defenses, but I think it's going to be a little more high scoring. I just got that feeling. And I think it's Texas's turn with Washington. I just think,
all 3 of us are on the same page.
Yeah, because I think Texas, they got a lot of things going. Their quarterback has gotten better every year. I think they probably have the best play caller in the tournament in Sarkisian. And You know, although Pennick's a magic man, I just think they may run out of magic. But I like an Alabama Texas final.
I do. Jimmy does as well. We're all on the same page there. Are there any other bowl games that stand out to you that you have interest in?
Yeah, I do. Is Florida State playing Oregon? Who are they playing?
No, Florida State's playing Georgia. They're 15-point dogs.
Oh, okay. Now Oregon, who they playing?
Oregon is playing Liberty, who is undefeated, and then you have the Pinstripe Bowl with Syracuse and Miami. No, Rutgers and Miami.
Well, all right. Well, I'll pass on that one. But although Rutgers, you saw Schiano got an extension to 2030 today.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, I didn't
Yeah,
see
that
but
just
that's
came
good
across.
move by Rutgers.
That just came across the bottom. 2030.
He's one of those guys, Coach. That Greg Schiano is one of those guys that obviously came up and down, a couple of times, but he's found a home right there in Rutgers and is doing his thing. And he
Great
he
recruiter.
recruits well. Yes,
He
absolutely
I'll tell you
recruits
what.
well.
Had he stayed there originally, I believe they would be a kind of a power now. We would talking them in a different term because he would have had a really good time to build up. And don't forget, there's a lot of great Jersey football players. They get a lot of recruits out of Jersey. So
yeah, one of them is winning games for the Giants.
yeah, well,
Yeah,
that's
absolutely.
exactly right. Okay, but
Tommy
they've
Collins.
had a lot of really good players that have gotten away. But so no, I'm looking forward to the games. I'm looking forward to see what Florida State does in their bowl against Georgia with the third string quarterback. I just can't imagine.
Well, the
that's gonna
second
be a
string
game.
will be back by then.
Yeah, I think the second string player is going to be coming back. But Coach, I want to bring you right back real quick, if you don't mind, to the Washington Texas game. You mentioned Sarkisian and his play calling abilities, which zero argument there for me. But I think what stands out for me with regards to him is his halftime adjustments. I have never, I'm a 50-year-old man, but I have never in that I can remember seen somebody that is able to make adjustments like he does at the half and come out and then implement those adjustments. The man is a wizard.
There's no question,
Yeah.
but he's done that from day one. He's done that from day
Right.
one, and we got to really see it in Alabama because Alabama was on television every week while he was there, and they were winning national championships. And sometimes
Sure.
they look like a completely different team in the second half, offensively, as opposed to the first half. I agree with you 100%.
The one thing I like really a lot about this Michigan Alabama game, and I was listening to people that know a lot more about this than I do.
Are there people that know more about this than you do?
I said I think there's one.
Oh, okay,
But
okay.
Michigan
All
has
right.
not faced a mobile running quarterback this entire season.
Yeah,
And I think that could pose problems for that defense.
that could be.
No question.
That could be.
And also the evolution of the Alabama quarterback from day one to today is leaps and bounds what Saban and the OC have done with him.
Yeah.
Because I watched Alabama play the first 3 weeks of this season,
Mm.
and I said to all my friends, all two of them,
Mm.
Alabama is not a typical Alabama team this year. But this quarterback, he's still not great, but he either gets away with a lot or doesn't make mistakes.
No.
So what he's not afraid to do is take that check down,
No.
right? So you have a couple of options with him. You have a play. You have two plays called, right? He can either check it down at the line, right, from a pass to a run or from a run to a pass. But in the absence of both of those, any one of those being open, he's able to utilize his legs, and he's not afraid to use the check down, right? He will throw that check down just about as frequent as anybody else will, pick up 3, 4, 5 yards, and then hit the home run ball when he needs to. He's not afraid
Yes.
to take that.
And
intermediate.
Saban is allowing him to do this now,
Absolutely.
Well,
he's given
which
him
is a credit to Saban.
Well, also, it's a credit to Saban that he's given Tommy Reese the freedom to do this. Don't forget, after the second game, after South Alabama, they wanted Reese out of there. I mean, it was that was the big thing in Alabama. Get Reese the hell out of there. They would rather have Matt Canada than Reese, for Christ's sake. But
Right.
now,
Coach, did Reese the OC with Chip Kelly at Notre Dame?
yes,
I think he
yes,
was.
yeah.
Okay,
This
so
is his first
I knew-
year. This is his first year
Right,
there. Yeah.
at Alabama. Yeah, he actually played the quarterback position at Notre Dame for a few years and was a decent little quarterback. But
Yeah.
I'd say he's kind of found his niche. And after Alabama sat that quarterback down week 3, and gave him a little talking to, he's playing with a
that's what I'm saying.
purpose.
Yeah.
He
Yes,
has some
no,
confidence.
he's come a long way. Their progression has come
Dick-
a long way, and their defense
Dick,
has grown up too. So
Dick,
we'll see.
before I let you go, you happy with? I mean, what'd you think of the Otani deal? What'd you think of Soto going to the Yankees? We talked about that earlier. What are your thoughts?
I
there?
think we knew Soto was coming to the Yankees.
I think we knew both. Yeah.
As far back as once they were out of it, I think he was a Yankee on their mind. I, the interesting thing about the Ohtani thing is for me how this thing is so far back ended. I understand he makes over $50 million a year away from baseball. I understand all of that, but how this is back ended that far is just beyond.
It's not right. Jimmy and I talked about that earlier. It's not right. Manfred's gonna have to step in and say no more. This can't happen.
That his paycheck could go into the next century. I mean, it's like, are you kidding me with this or not? But
what do you want the Mets to do? What would make you happy in this offseason?
You know what? You and I both liked Matt Chapman. I don't know if you still like him as much as I do anymore, but
no, I do. And you know what? Mauricio, who they had penciled in him or Beatty at third, it tore his ACL.
I saw that.
It could open the door to Chapman.
Yeah, I saw that. And
give me Chapman, Lucas Giolito, and Blake Snell, and I'm done. And Yamamoto.
I'll go. Yeah, with the Japanese kid. I'll go with that.
I knew he was going to refer to him as the Japanese kid. He backed out of it. He wouldn't go with the name.
Yasunobu Yamamoto.
I'll work on that. So I'll have a better feel for it next week. So
right.
Are you back next week?
Oh yeah. I'll be there.
Oh yeah,
I'll be there.
All right.
Well, you know what? Sounds like you ought to keep Jimmy there too.
I told him the rule is I can't have anybody better looking than you.
Well, that is
He's
true.
got nothing to worry about, Coach. He's got nothing to worry about. I'm keeping your seat warm. I told him when I got here, big shoes to fill. I'll do my best, and I always enjoyed listening to you guys.
No. Hey, look, you're doing fine. All right,
Dick,
boys. Thanks. Good talking
I'll
to
speak to you later, Dick.
Thanks for checking in. Have a great show.
Good night, Coach.
You got it. Listen, I'm going to get in touch with the Irishman. Jimmy and I are going to finish up with the NFL, and we'll be right back. It is December 13th still. 2023. To my right is Jimmy Emory filling in for legendary coach Dick O'Neill. And this portion of the show is brought to you by Brew. And it's very important. It's the Brew in Goshen, right on 2 Railroad Avenue. Brew, they have great atmosphere, great food, great bartenders, TVs. You can watch all your games. They have live music. And phenomenal menu.
Great place to
You've been
enjoy
there?
a game. I have.
It is a great place. And it is known as a place where the Irishmen may hang out every now and then in the back right corner, left corner. Irishmen, first of all, thank you for joining us.
Glad to be with you.
Before we get to Michigan, Alabama, Washington, Texas, there are some games that we talked about that, it's tough to get involved in these games because you really don't know who's playing in them.
Oh my gosh, the portal is more busy than the bathroom here at the Brew. It's unbelievable.
Arizona, Oklahoma. Arizona, finished the season on fire. They play Oklahoma. Any interest in that game?
Oh, absolutely. And you look at it here, you got a Pac-10 team in Arizona playing, like you said, coming into the bowl season very high. They want to prove it. They would love to beat a Big 12 team. It's the last time Oklahoma will be in the Big 12.
Oklahoma is a 3-point underdog in that game.
Yeah, they're an underdog. Exactly. I was just going to touch on that. And they're favorites. So to me, that's just a red flag. I am definitely playing Arizona in that game.
Okay. Oregon State, with the name of the Irishman, Oregon State's playing Notre Dame.
Love my team from Oregon State. They're laying a lot of wood, though. So it's kind of like it's probably a stay away game for me.
Okay.
I agree. I think, especially with Notre Dame's quarterback this year, I watched him when he was at Wake Forest hang about 70 points on West Point Army football a couple years ago, and he's been slinging the rock for Notre Dame this year. I think that's a stay away game as well.
Missouri, Missouri had a very good season for Missouri. They're a 2.5-point favorite over Ohio State because the Ohio State quarterback is probably not playing. Or definitely
Well, Ohio State, believe me, Ohio State to them, this is like playing in a runner-up position because they didn't get into the playoffs. This is Missouri's Super Bowl. I'm all over Missouri. I think Missouri wins, and I think they might even lay some wood if they can. little extra mustard on them. So I can see Missouri winning by double digits.
Okay, Ole Miss at Ole Miss plays Penn State.
Ole Miss, Penn State. Not a big believer in Penn State, especially when they're laying points. I take Ole Miss. Defensive battle.
Liberty went undefeated this year. They
good team.
They play Oregon. The line is huge in that game. 17.5 points.
Well, you got Oregon. You got Oregon also. You know, they're like very disappointed that they lost at the end of the year in the Pac-10 championship. You know, and now they're going against the Liberty team. Liberty team. Any team that came across their way, they beat them. Can't deny that. They're a good team. They're a quick team. I'll take the points with Liberty.
Irishman, does Bo Nix play in that game?
What's that?
Does Bo Nix play in that game?
I don't know if he is or not. To be quite honest, I mean, I would think he
is.
does. I would think he wouldn't play. I would think he'd sit it out. There's no reason for him to play. He has no more eligibility left.
But I think the type of personality and Bo Nix, I think Bo Nix is going to finish it out and probably play in that game.
Well, we'll see. You know what? Once he signs with an agent, the agent tells him what to do. You know, talking millions of dollars. He's going to be, you know, the top 5 pick. So
now, usually North Dakota State and Montana. I mean, I'm not going to ask you about games like that, but is there a game I missed that you absolutely are salivating over?
Well, another game I think we should touch on, and that would be Boise State against UCLA.
Okay.
And here you got a lot of things going on there. And in fact, I think the UCLA might be down to their hobbled quarterback. And if he doesn't play, they'll be taking a guy who wasn't taking a snap, because I believe their starting quarterback went into the portal.
Yes, he did. He's a 5-star guy who went.
Yeah, and so you got Boise State, the same thing.
And so you like Boise State in that game?
Boise State's quarterback as well is not going to play. I think he injured himself. So you got Boise. They're getting about 4 against UCLA.
Mm-hmm.
I'll take Boise.
Okay. Before I let you go, Michigan, Alabama's a pick'em. Washington versus Texas. Texas is getting 4.
Well, yeah, you know me. I'll take
No. Texas is Texas is getting 4.
Yeah. Texas is favored, you said?
I think so. Am I wrong? Hold on a second. Am I wrong there?
I don't think so. I think Texas is getting 4.
Yeah. No, Washington's getting 4. Texas is a 4-point favorite.
Right. So I'm going to go with the team that everybody said shouldn't be there. And that's Alabama. You know, they're going to prove everybody wrong. I wouldn't be surprised if they win the national championship. That's just the way things work out. So I'll take Alabama. And Texas and Washington. Tough one, but I'll take. So when you got 2 tough teams playing each other, I'll be more than happy to take points instead of give points.
Okay, so we're all pretty much on the same page here.
I think he's
taking Washington. What are this portion of the show? The Irishman, brought to you by Brew. What are the specials there? If you happen to be around, Brew, what are the specials there?
Actually, I was in here today. I had a beautiful chicken marsala with some mashed potatoes and sauteed zucchini and onions. It was absolutely delicious. Well, they have eggplant, they have chicken piccata, chicken franchise, all different things they're putting on the menu besides their great burgers and wings and salads and sandwiches.
I'll probably stop there for some chicken franchise on the way home. What's the over-under on franchise?
Over and under. What do you mean? The over and under. The over and under. You stop by picking it up. I'll take the under.
Okay, you got it. Irishman, thank you very much. That's Brew on Railroad Avenue in Goshen.
I hope everybody wins some money. Have a great one. Thanks.
Thank you. He always does a great spot. He had a very good year this year with his picks as well.
I'm sure. Super knowledgeable. Hey, on a side note, have you watched any the local kid Junkaj and see what he's doing up at U Albany?
No.
So last Friday night he set the.
I know that Albany's playing very well.
So he got his 16th sack. He set the Division I FCS record for sacks. He had a strip sack with 2 minutes left, which resulted in a scoop and score, and they beat the Vandals out in
Idaho. They beat
Idaho,
right?
yeah, in that Kibbe Dome, and so now they're playing number 1 South Dakota State Friday night.
Great.
Yeah, that kid's gonna play on Sundays.
Anton.
Yep, Minnesink Valley kid.
Yes, that I do know, and I think the quarterback for Albany might be a local kid too, from Somers or something.
Paffenberger from close by Pennsylvania, I believe.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
When we come back, Jimmy and I are going to do the NFL and close out the show. am Darin Kunis. To my right, Jimmy Emory. We just had Dick O'Neill on the line. We covered baseball. We covered college football. We talked about everything that's wrong with college football. Let's talk some NFL and close out the show. This portion of the show is brought to you by Orange County Bagel with 4 locations. We sit here in one of these beautiful locations in Middletown, the other locations in Walden, Washingtonville, and Goshen. Big time of the year for catering, and that's Orange County Bagel with 4 locations. Jimmy, I think the big story in the NFL this year is twofold. Referees deciding games, and injuries.
Absolutely.
Big time injuries to big time players. Look at the entire AFC division. What are they called now? The AFC North. The Ravens, the Browns, the Steelers, and the Bengals. None of them have. Lamar Jackson is still playing. That's it. Otherwise, they're all gone.
Whom we've said nothing about this year, right? He's having a journeyman year, and they're in first place in the AFC. Or will be the number one seed.
And my pick to go to the Super Bowl and play the 49ers. That's
the
what my
number
bet
one
was.
seed in the AFC. But yeah, you're not wrong. The Browns, we resurrected Joe Flacco, right? The Steelers, when Kenny Pickett went down. Right?
Yeah, he was. Listen, I give Tomlin so much credit, and this year more so than ever, because Pickett's bad.
Right.
Trubisky stinks.
Horrible. Did you see the game the other night?
No, I can't watch it.
It was terrible. And then Cincinnati, Joe Burrow goes down, but nobody saw them at 7-6 either. That's just an anomaly. We thought that they were going to be a whole hell of a lot better than they are there.
Absolutely.
At 7-6.
And they can still win that division.
Yeah. So what you're asking to do right now, the onus or the pressure is being put on GMs and coaches going forward to make sure that your backup quarterback is every bit as good as your starter, or at least has the ability to step in and manage a game, right? Because we're seeing it across the board.
You're a bigger Jet fan than Giant fan, or are you neither?
Well, so I'm born and raised in Vermont, so I'm a Pats fan.
Okay.
But I'm a football fan. I'm an AFC East fan, so I enjoy watching the AFC East. Yeah.
Okay. Look at the AFC East. Who wins this division? Miami. Look at Miami's schedule.
Right.
Now you have the Jets, the Cowboys, the Ravens, and the Bills. They could easily go 1-4, 1-3 there.
No question. And they get the Ravens at the Ravens, right?
Yes.
So they get the Bills at home. So the only thing that's going to help them there is maybe a little bit warmer weather.
Yep.
But yeah, so theoretically they could go, it could come down to Miami and the Bills here, because I think going forward the Bills have an easier schedule.
I think the Bills beat Dallas. I think the Bills beat San Diego, and I think the Bills beat Miami.
And I think
the Bills get 10 wins.
And I think they win the AFC East by virtue of the head-to-head.
Okay, but you don't think Miami's going to get to 11?
I don't.
Okay.
I do not. I don't think I think they beat the Jets. I don't believe they get past Dallas. I don't believe they get past the Ravens, and I certainly don't think they get by the Bills. The Bills are starting to click right now.
You're a horrible co-host. We agree on everything so far. Do the Jets have just way too many teams to jump over? And
no question.
You know what's funny? This is what's ridiculous. Aaron Rodgers this whole year has talked about coming back. All you've heard is, I'll be back, I'll be back, I'll be back. They asked him this morning, they asked him after the Jets win the other day, will you be back? He says, fellas, I don't want to talk about that. Well, why would you ask me that? Because, Aaron, you've talked about it every day.
Ad nauseum.
The story this whole year is Aaron Rodgers.
Absolutely. Even when he wasn't relevant, he made himself relevant.
Yes.
By virtue of his mouth and going forward. Listen, the Jets, I don't see anything there. They're not going to beat Miami, and they're certainly not going to beat the Browns.
Yeah.
Someone forgot to tell Flacco that he was 45 years old.
Yes.
And as far
they
as...
can win this week. No, they can't win this week.
No.
So they're done.
Right.
They needed this week. That's why I only put him. I didn't give you their whole schedule.
I'm glad to see the kid had a good game the other night. And
Yes.
I'm glad to see him, a smile on his face, a little bit of confidence, because to be quite honest, I think Robert Saleh and that entire franchise did him wrong, right? They put him in an unwinnable position, right? They draft him number 2 overall, right? He goes into a situation that he can't succeed in. They certainly don't set him up for success. And then surround him with incompetence. And whatever pieces they did have, they traded away. So
yes, but Zach
not
Wilson
setting him up.
also was very immature
Sure.
and answered some questions in a pretty crappy way.
No question. And then when asked recently, hey, are you coming back in? Do you want? I'm not so sure. He wasn't very confident.
Yeah, I think that might have been fake news, though. I don't know.
So.
Where there's smoke, there's fire, though.
Right.
Now, let's go through the AFC. You like the Ravens.
I do.
You just told me you like Buffalo to win the East.
I think Buffalo comes out of the AFC East. I think they're tied with Miami, but because of the tiebreaker, they come out, or the head-to-head, they come out.
The
I
South.
like the Ravens out of the North.
Okay.
Right. And to be quite honest, I love the Jags. I'd love to see. I hated seeing what happened to them the other night, and I hated seeing Lawrence go down because to me that kid plays the game the right way.
Yeah. Well, he's back. He's played.
He did play the other night, but he's not 100% whole. I don't know that they get by the Ravens, which is going to be weird because that'll put them at 8-6, and then the Colts and the Texans can come right up as well too. So
here's what's very interesting. Sean Payton's done one hell of a job.
Goodness.
This team started off 1-5. Russell Wilson looked like he should have retired.
Yep.
And now they sit here at 7-6. Kansas City is 8-5 ever since Taylor Swift got in the picture. And look at the Denver schedule. At Detroit, which is not playing well.
Right.
New England, which, sorry to say, they stink.
Yep.
San Diego has no coach or
No
quarterback.
quarterback.
And the Raiders have Antonio Pierce and no quarterback. Denver could run the table and win the AFC West.
No, and it's not out of the question. It's not out of the question. The only thing that's going to have to happen, though, is Kansas City's going to have to falter a little bit more than they did the other night.
Right.
I don't know that they
Well,
will.
they own the tiebreaker.
They do. But are they both going to be – so right now 8-5, 7-6, they're going to have to run out. Denver's going to have to win out.
Yes.
And it's not above out of the realm of possibility. There's no question about that.
Mm-hmm.
What did you think of Mahomes' tirade the other night with the offsides call?
Listen, you were a policeman.
Yes, sir.
If I drove by you every day at 70 and at 55 and you let me go, and then I did 80 and said, but you've let me go, Tony was lining up offsides all game.
Right.
And the referee just called it. Did he call it at the wrong time?
Right.
I don't know. But here's my only issue with it. If Tony looked at the referee, like every wide receiver does and says, am I good? And the referee didn't acknowledge or said yes, then don't throw the flag.
Exactly.
If he told him step back and Tony didn't, then he has every right to throw the flag.
Right.
Was he offsides? Yes.
Clearly, but
Yes.
in a spot like that, I don't. You prefaced this segment by talking about the officiating this year, and so that segues right into that. I don't know that you let an individual who is paid to officiate the games. I don't know that you let them decide the outcome.
But was he offsides?
Yes.
And was he offsides in the fourth quarter? What's the difference if he's offside in the fourth quarter or the first
Right.
quarter?
I
If
just
he's
think
offsides, he's offsides.
Yeah, at this point, it was so egregious, and the call was made. You can argue both sides of it too. There was a couple of plays later where there was, one of the other players on the opposing team was offsides and it wasn't called. So
Okay, I didn't see that. But it's just the same thing with like a Hail Mary.
Right.
Every time there's a Hail Mary thrown, there's pass interference. They never call it. Why?
Right. Yeah. Right.
Let's go to the NFC. Dallas had a big win, and to me,
Statement.
a statement win finally. And they beat Artist Alley's Eagles. They didn't beat them; they destroyed them.
Yes.
I think there's something wrong with Hurts right now. I think he's. I don't think he's right. I didn't think he was right since the Buffalo game. He may be suffering from concussion symptoms or something. He just doesn't look or feel right.
Right.
Dallas has a tough schedule remaining. Dallas goes to Buffalo this week. Then they go to Miami or are home to Miami, Detroit, and one other game that I don't think means any
Right.
a bad team.
So I think the Bills is the only thing going forward that's really going to test them. I think they.
What about Miami?
I think they beat Miami, and the reason being, Dak's play this year. If you look at it from a number standpoint, Miami's defense isn't going to be able to hold up to what he's doing with regards to CeeDee Lamb and their running game.
You're right, because
It
Miami
is-
wasn't able to do it against Buffalo or
No,
against those other
no,
teams. Yes.
No, and then if we touch on your Eagles real quick, or Allie's Eagles,
Yeah, they're not my Eagles.
right? They haven't passed the eye test for me all year. You ever been in
No.
that fantasy league where
Yes.
you lead the entire league in points every single week? You have
Yep.
the most points by 100,
But
but
you're
your
not
record
impressive.
doesn't show it. Yeah,
Right.
you got nothing. That's the Eagles for me this year.
Yeah.
When they started out the gate and just barely squeaked by the Pats, who looked anemic
Yes.
at that point in time. Just never. I don't know. They won a bunch of one-score games that really didn't impress me too much. And then here lately, I think we're kind of seeing what they're made of.
Yes, they go to Seattle and they have the Giants 2 times, so that helps them.
Right.
Giants are 5-8. A win this week against the Saints, and Tommy DeVito could run for president.
Indeed. And his father and his agent.
Yes. But the Giants, this is their last week of a chance to win a game.
Agreed.
They have the Eagles twice.
Right. Yep, a conference opponent. And regardless of how the Eagles are playing right now, they are still head and shoulders in all three facets of the game better than the Giants are.
Yes, I think the Eagles are definitely the third best team in the NFC.
In the NFC or in the NFL?
In the NFC.
I agree with you.
Yeah, what the Giants are going to give you this week is just one more week of saying what if.
Feel good story.
Yes.
Right? It's a feel good story. The kid's not supplanting Daniel Jones next year. If
No.
anything, I think this was good for Daniel Jones' career because, say, for argument's sake, this kid came in and just did nothing, right? Well, then there might be some talk or there might be some clamor about the Giants going out and getting a quarterback.
Correct.
And they're high enough up where they feasibly could trade up or get a decent
Correct.
quarterback in that first round.
We say it every week. Daniel Jones has been in this league for 5 years, and we still don't know what he is.
Right, but I'd say he's rich.
Yeah. NFC North, the Lions to me are no threat. Listen, the Lions can win a playoff game if they get it at home.
Absolutely.
To me, very disappointing in the Lions. Their season to me came to a halt on Thanksgiving Day. First time the Lions are good playing on a national stage, and they shit the bed.
Yep, absolutely.
Vikings are 7-6. Josh Dobbs was a great story for about 20 minutes there.
Yeah, sitting, riding a pine this year or this game. He, they're going to their third string quarterback, who, by the way, was Cousins' backup at the beginning of the year, right before he got dinged up a little bit.
Yes.
So it's not like they're taking a huge step
They get
down.
Jefferson back. He gets
Right.
hurt, but he should be back again.
Absolutely. Where do you think he's playing next year, Cousins?
I don't know yet. Probably he could be Minnesota.
Very well. It could be Minnesota. I think they'd be foolish to let him go if you look at his numbers over the past few years. I mean,
Yeah.
he's up there. If I were to tell you that,
There's going to be a lot of teams that are going to be that there'll be a line for Kirk Cousins,
absolutely,
assuming he's healthy.
absolutely. But he's at a point in time in his career right now where now he wants the bag. Show me the money.
Yeah, well,
Right?
he's got the
I've
money.
done.
I think
I've
now I
done-
disagree with you. I think now he
Really?
wants to win. Before it was show me the money.
He kind of played.
He's
he
made a
told
lot of money,
He
Jimmy.
has, but he told the company line for years and years and years, and did what he was supposed to do. Look,
Yeah.
look at when he was drafted by the Commanders, right? I mean, he didn't sign a huge contract then.
No, but he's been. I think he's over 30 million the last few years in Minnesota.
chump change.
Yeah. NFC South, the division stinks. There's no one there that's a threat.
Nope.
NFC West, to me, has the best team in the NFL, and that's the 49ers.
Unbelievable, right? So this Brock Purdy kid comes in and does things that he is just not supposed to do from a physical standpoint, from a mental standpoint, and he does.
Mhm.
You've heard me say 3 times tonight that, with regards to college quarterbacks, NFL quarterbacks, taking the check down, managing the game, right? It's cliche, but we hear it all the time. When you're drafting a quarterback, you're a GM and you're drafting a quarterback, you don't say, I need the guy like Brett Favre that can sling it 90 yards down the field and hit the home run ball, 4 out of 5 times. What you're saying is I want a guy who can make all the throws and who is accurate, who doesn't turn the ball over, right, and manages the game.
And perhaps has 4 years of college under his belt.
Mhm.
That helped Purdy.
Yeah, from a maturation standpoint.
Yes.
Which, by the way, his brother Chubba Purdy, was a feel-good story at Nebraska this year.
And his sister, Pretty Purdy.
She's pretty pretty. What a great story with this kid. He's come in, he's done what they were asked him to do, and he beat out some big names. The Lance kid, Jimmy Garoppolo. So he wasn't necessarily set up for success, but when he got his opportunity,
Well liked, and could actually, we could be sitting here talking about the last player drafted, Mr. Irrelevant,
Yeah.
as an MVP.
no question. Oh, and by the way, he is surrounded with talent.
Yes.
Right? Debo Samuel, you talk about, a lot of
He-
people are talking now about, who's the
Brandon
MVP.
Ayuk, McCaffrey.
Yeah.
I mean, this team is just loaded.
So who's the MVP? Who's the most non-essential non-quarterback in the league, right? So you could make an argument for Tyreek Hill, right? He who has more receiving yards than 5 NFL franchises.
I could argue. Listen, when Purdy could win an MVP, but when McCaffrey was out,
Mhm.
they lost 3 straight
Well,
or 2 straight.
Debo
With
was out,
Samuel
too.
Those guys out.
So
yes. And
with-
Kittle one game.
Right. So with Debo and McCaffrey, and they haven't lost yet,
Yes.
right?
Correct.
So there's an argument to be made there for Debo, and an argument for Tyreek Hill. If you look at him, who I got.
Well, you just said a few
I
minutes
thought
ago
he
when
was-
Hill was out of the game, Tua was lost.
Yeah, he did. He wasn't the same. He wasn't the same player. I legitimately thought when Tyreek was traded, I thought that Andy Reid knew something that we didn't, and I thought it was a good trade. And I thought that Miami was foolish for giving up what they gave up to get him.
Yeah.
He has turned the AFC East on its head. He has more receiving yards than the Jets, the Patriots, the Falcons, the Giants.
Tyreek
there's
Hill
one
is
other
an
team.
incredible weapon.
It's unbelievable.
Agreed. MVP, you could argue a million. You could make a case for a few guys. Purdy, you could make a case for.
Hurts,
You could
Dak.
definitely make a case for Dak Prescott, as hard as that is to say.
So people, it's funny because when somebody is a Dak hater, my 2 favorite teams in the NFL are the Patriots and whoever's playing the Cowboys.
Yeah,
Right,
mine too.
and that's just that's how I do business.
My favorite team is the Giants and whoever's playing the Eagles.
Yeah, right. So, but if you take a look at Dak's numbers and you put his numbers apples to apples up against any other quarterback's numbers in the past 5 or 6 years, and he's in the conversation, he is right there.
Mhm.
Right. What's the knock? hasn't won the big game, shits the bed in the big game, right?
Mhm.
Well, maybe this year's different. We'll see
Yeah.
what happens.
Listen, if Dallas gets home field, that's very important to them.
No doubt.
Jimmy, great show. Really, thank
My
you
pleasure.
very much for coming in. Rich, thank you for everything. We will be back next week. We'll certainly be back before the holidays. And Jimmy, thank you so
My
much.
pleasure. Thanks for having me, Darren. I
You
appreciate it.
got it.